welcome to Everything Fear. Today we're going to be looking at the top 5 horror movies of 1989. Hello and welcome to Everything Fear, your one-stop shop for all things horror. I'm Kit Tinsley, I'm a horror author, film academic and general horror geek. Sorry for not posting for a few weeks, but we've had a few birthdays in the family, so I took a bit of time off. However, we're back now and we will be posting regularly. Today is episode 12 in our series A Life in Horror. In this series, I give my personal top 5 horror movies of every year that I've been alive. This time, it's the year 1989. Number 5, Society. Brian Yazuna's very black comedy horror is as impactful today as it was in 1989. The film deals with class struggle in a way that's not preachy but is very blunt. In the movie, teenage Bill feels like an outsider in his very wealthy family. There's a wonderful weirdness about the family and their rich friends. It's subtle at first, just a strangeness that you can't quite pinpoint. As the film progresses, we see that the society are very different. An incestuous orgy cult that leads to some of the most amazingly gloopy body horror ever put on film. The grotesque nature is so over the top that it's brilliant. Number 4, Leviathan. 1989 was the year of underwater movies. James Cameron unleashed The Abyss. And then there were the aquatic alien knockoffs, Leviathan and Deep Star 6. Though of the three of them, The Abyss is by far the best movie. It's also much more of a science fiction film and not really a horror film. Both of the others are good B-movie horror movies, but of the two of them, I feel that Leviathan is the best. First of all, it has a great cast, including RoboCop himself, Peter Weller, in the lead, with support from Daniel Stern and Rambo's Richard Crenna. The monster is an interesting thing-like entity, and overall the action and cinematography are great in this movie. Number 3, Shocker. The post-Nightmare on Elm Street 80s were very hit and miss for director Wes Craven. Though he didn't make any bad films in this period, there were very few highlights. The last movie he made before his 90s renaissance was Shocker. This movie feels very much like Craven trying to create a new, franchise-worthy horror villain. After all, he had lost control of his greatest creation, Freddy Krueger, who was still very much dominating the horror landscape. In Shocker, we are introduced to Horace Pinker, a murderous TV repairman, who, after his execution in the electric chair, sells his soul to the devil to come back as a pure form of electricity, to get revenge and continue his killings. This leads to some great death scenes and a chase through television. Mitch Pileggi is great as Horace Pinker. The problem is that at the time it felt like Craven was repeating himself. The concept of a dead serial killer stalking people through television was a little too similar to the concept of a dead serial killer stalking people through their dreams. In hindsight though, Shocker is a solid and interesting horror movie that sadly never got the sequel that it clearly deserved. Number 2, Pet Sematary. Mary Lambert directed this adaptation of the novel that Stephen King calls his scariest and his nastiest. The story of a city family moving to the country and the ensuing tragedy that leads them to dabble in an ancient and evil mystery. This movie is so good. From the amazing performances from Dale Midkiff, Denise Crosby, Fred Gwynne, and particularly 3-year-old Miko Hughes, to the terrifying backstory of Timmy Bateman, the grotesque appearance of friendly spirit Pasco, and of course, who can forget Zelda? She haunted my nightmares for years. A film that deals with the horrors of losing a child and the lengths that you would go to get them back, and proves that sometimes dead is better. If you enjoy this video, if you could please give us a like, subscribe, and maybe tickle that bell icon to be notified when we upload future content, that would be great, thank you. Number 1, Warlock. Steve Miner directed this amazing movie, which I did a review on a few weeks back, and you can find a link to that up there. It's a movie that balances its horror, adventure and humour really well, with some amazing cinematography and great performances, especially from Richard E. Grant and Julian Sands as the titular Warlock. In the movie, a villainous witch is spared execution in 1694 by the devil and transported forward to the year 1988 in Los Angeles. Here, the devil charges him with bringing back together the pages of his Bible, the Grand Grimoire, a book with the power, when reunited, to undo the entire of creation. So it's pretty high stakes. The Warlock is pursued through time by his nemesis, witch hunter Redfern, played by Richard E. Grant, who must do everything in his power to stop the Warlock from completing his nefarious quest. It's such a well-made movie and a true all-time favourite of mine. Well, thank you very much for joining us. That was my personal top 5 horror movies of 1988. What were yours? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, stay scared and stay tuned.